Good morning, all. I welcome you all to the final day of 6 days AICT sponsored STTP on Paradigm Shift in Assessment and Evaluation Practices for Engineering Graduates. Today we have Dr. Biju K. to present on the topic Outcome Based Education Program Outcomes Attainment. Dear participants, we will have a question answer session at the end. So you can post your queries in the Zoom chat box that will be attended at the end. Now I invite Professor Therese Yamuna Mahesh, course coordinator of the program, to introduce our resource person.
Good morning, dear participants. Let me introduce to you Dr. Biju K, Assistant Professor in the Department of Education, School of Education and Training, Central University of Tamil Nadu. He is a postgraduate in physics, B.Ed in Moral and Spiritual Education, and started his career as a higher secondary school teacher in physics, then as a teacher in education. He also worked as manager, product development and alliances of NIIT. He is an excellent trainer, trained more than 5,000 school teachers across the country in various topics like assessment, 21st century education, prepared and handled classes in CTET, a corporate trainer in soft skills. He has expertise in science education, ICT, educational research and statistical analysis, curriculum design and development. He has contributed in different SWAYAM MOOCs, published papers in national and international journals, and was a master trainer for Microsoft and Intel, and handled sessions and workshops for NCERT, CIET, and handled sessions in Tamil Nadu Central University, FDPs, and a lot more. Today, let us hear him on the topic Outcome-Based Education, Program Outcomes Attainment. We welcome you, sir, to this session.
Sir, I think you are not audible. Please unmute, sir.
Thanks a lot, ma'am. First of all, I would like to thank Amal Jyoti College of Engineering, the management, staff, students, and those who are listening to me. So our discussion, or maybe my presentation today, is on outcome-based education, program outcome attainment. I hope you had a session already on outcome-based education, program outcome-based education. Basically, when we talk about program outcome attainment, it connects to the assessment part. And even the program is entitled on assessment paradigms. So let's see the big concepts, especially when we are talking about attainment of the program outcome. So basically we come across three big concepts, or maybe I can say there would be a super concept called evaluation. When you look into evaluation, we will come to know that it's not very simple as we perceived. It depends on basically the assessment and measurement. Most of the time we measure, and maybe very we do the assessment. If you look back, even when we were in schools or maybe in colleges, we were measured. Very rarely we got assessed. Now there would be a confusion. What is these two? For the faculty members from the engineering section, those who are well versed with mathematics, they know very well that what is measurement. Measurement is nothing but when you are able to quantify. I used to remember Lord Kelvin's statement. Kelvin talked about if you want to say that you know something about, you should be able to measure it. And if you are not able to express it in numbers, then your knowledge is meager and unsatisfactory. So there it's clearly mentioned that what exactly the importance of measurement in any walks of life. But when it comes to maybe teaching learning, we do conduct the tests and we give them the marks, or we may call it as scores. And also, maybe because of the new reforms in education, even in technical education, we know that we need to have a continuous process. We need to follow a continuous process in measuring, assessing, or put together evaluating. So basically, measurement gives an answer for how much the learner is learning. It's about how much. Whereas assessment is about how best. This is the difference. So most of the time, whatever assessment or measurement or evaluation tasks or the activities we design or implement, by nature, it ends up with measurement. Let me remind you something, maybe quoting RTE. Right to Education Act clearly articulates that we are not supposed to assess the learner. Rather, we need to assess the learning ability. So when you talk about the abilities, then it's very clear that we cannot label a student as failed or useless. Rather, we may use it as useless. So putting these together, the measurement and assessment, we can say that we have certain norms, we have certain criteria, or we have certain standards, which tells you that you need to label whether this particular student is qualified or eligible for higher education or ready to the market. So the market is looking towards not the certificates, the market is looking towards the skills, the attitude that we know. But still in our education system, we focus on evaluating and you may provide the ranks depending upon whatever the students have performed. Now we depend on the performance of the student. And the performance are being most of the time measured. So the big concepts we need to keep it in our mind. And even I hope in the technical education or at the engineering education level also, we give emphasis for continuous evaluation or continuous assessment. UGC was talking about the continuous assessment, but in practice that also was becoming maybe periodical measurement. So these three basic concepts gives you an idea that what exactly we supposed to do. Now the question is, what do we know? Are we very clear about measurement, assessment, and evaluation? What sort of clarity we have? Most of the time we end up with paper pencil test or maybe a laboratory experiment followed by the whiteboards. What else we do? If I ask that way, then the answer would be we do conduct seminars, we do conduct maybe the demonstrations. Let the student be involved in all these. Are we considering all these activities for the assessment? If yes, how best we are doing that? What is the level of satisfaction each one of us have? Are we really satisfied the way in which we conduct the assessment? Earlier, we were following maybe objective-based
Sir,
education. Yeah.
excuse me, sir. Sir, I
Yes.
think your connection is not stable. Your video gets stuck in between.
Is that
But the audio is clear.
okay? Yeah. I'll do one thing. There are two networks. I think. Now is that fine?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. No, actually, I have a backup network, so that has taken up. Sorry.
Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
So the basic question is, what do we know and what is our satisfaction level? All of us are involved in various assessment activities, but by the end of the semester, are we really satisfied? What about the satisfaction level of our beneficiaries? That is also a question. We still follow maybe the internal as well as external combination. Now, if we really look into what do we know, then the question is, what do we do? What are the different assessment activities we are framing or designing, and how do we implement? Especially during this COVID, during these lockdown periods or maybe unlock period, most of us are depending upon the online teaching learning. And how far you are satisfied? Most of the people suggest that yes, we are satisfied the way with which we are sharing maybe the resources or information to the students. But most of us are not so happy with the assessments that we are conducting. We have a greater concern with the laboratory based activities. Though, however best we depend or we expect that maybe the virtual labs can support us, but still there are limits a virtual lab or even an AR setup or even AI setup can have. In a laboratory setup, we do expect the hands-on experiences for the students. So once they integrate technology and the application or the disciplinary knowledge and its application, we know that they'll be able to learn better, appreciate the learning better, or appreciate the theories or the concepts, whatever they learn. But now they have to depend either asynchronous mode or synchronous mode. Even in synchronous mode, most of us say that the kind of interactions we are not satisfied. But still, we are doing whatever best we are able to do. Maybe some of you may be depending upon any learning management system or maybe the assessment tools which are all available. Maybe before COVID, what exactly we were doing? We were doing in terms of maybe seminars or presentations or unit tests or the term examinations. Is there any need for rethinking about what should be the structure of assessment that we need, especially in engineering education? It's a high time to think, because in a new normal, as suggested by UNESCO, in a new normal, maybe we will have a proper blending of online as well as offline. And I hope all of you will agree that this pandemic situation opened up n number of opportunities, especially for the teachers. We were compelled to explore the different possibilities. So obviously we will do because we need to survive. Now, when we set our minds, maybe for the reforms or realignment of assessment, I'm focusing on assessment because I need not repeat attainment of program of outcomes, POs. If we need to attain POs, obviously we are depending on assessment. Now the question is, what kind of paradigms we are embracing? So the modern assessment has got 4 different, maybe I can say, the dimension. One of the dimension is assessment for learning. How much we depend on assessment for learning? How much we explore the scope of assessment for learning? Do we do that? What is that assessment for learning? So I have just combined 2 together because there is a reason. There is one assessment for learning and another one is assessment of learning. If you look into that, the one is for learning. We are very know about for the people, by the people, of the people. So the 4 is there, but are we really into that? Assessment for learning tells you that the assessment that takes care the formation of learning. That gives us an idea that we need to emphasize on the process of learning. Whereas most of the time we give emphasis for the product of learning. Even 1956, Benjamin S. Bloom, though it is being taken by the education faculties, but we know that on the premises of outcome-based education, we do depend on Benjamin S. Bloom's taxonomy of educational objectives, because we don't have nothing more than that. Or in 2000, his disciples Krathwohl and Anderson talked about revising the original taxonomy. So basically, we focus on the product of learning. What did they learn? Now, how much time we give emphasis for how are they learning? Are they learning the way we expect? Most of the time, we compromise or we assume that, yes, it's happening. Dear friends, if we are more concerned with the program outcome attainment, I would suggest that one of the best way of attaining the program outcomes would be if you are able to implement assessment for learning. I'll give a simple example. How much time you are able to involve in the learning process taken by the students? Are we giving a schedule? Are we giving the learner a support to develop a learning plan? We say that no, we have maybe 100 students in a classroom. Yeah, all the 100 students are different. They will be learning in different ways. True. But as a faculty, what is our role? Most of the time, we go ahead with the average group of learners. At times, we focus on maybe the kind of creamy layer of the gifted learners. And very rarely, we do invest maybe the time and resource for the slow learners, or what do we call the backward learners. But as a faculty, when you are in the class, The learning is being anchored by the teacher, performed by the students through different tasks and activities. I don't know whether our classrooms are multi-purpose classrooms. Most of the time our classroom is the good old four-walled fixed classrooms. Maybe now we say that we have smart classrooms. I won't agree that you have a smart classroom unless and until you agree that you have smart students, smart teachers, as well as smart content. You may have a digital classroom, you may have a high-tech classroom, but what is happening inside? Whether the learners are learning the way we expect, are we looking into that? If you are concerned with the program outcome attainment, one of the best way is that give emphasis for the assessment for learning, or what do we call the formative assessment. No need for a confusion. I'll give an example how exactly we have to do. Most of us have learned how to ride a bicycle. How exactly we learned? In my case, my maybe elder brother has got a bicycle, so I could see that he is riding the bicycle. He has got a lot of advantages. So I also developed a kind of interest to learn bicycle. Then I keep on requesting. So after all the request and recommendation maybe from the parents, he has agreed, okay, now I'll teach you how to ride it. So I know the parts of the bicycle. He asked me to get into the bicycle, sit properly. These are the pedals and where exactly you have to hold it. Now, maybe some of you may be able to remember what exactly he was doing. The elder used to hold back in the seat and tell us that how to maybe ride, pedal it. Meanwhile, he will check whether your posture is correct, whether your holding is proper, and he will be pushing. He'll be pushing you and also making the corrections. While pushing or while moving along with you, he'll be making the corrections. You might have got a slap at the back. Then after some time, he may develop maybe a trust that now, okay, you will be able to ride by yourself, but without informing you, release the hand and move back. Then look at you whether you are able to ride it. These are the things we are also doing in our classroom. We are helping the learner to learn the new concepts, the theories, or maybe the practicals. You are along with the students making the corrections. But how far is that possible? How far we are doing? That is the question. And this is what formative assessment. You are involved in the learning process and making the corrections then and there before the learning gets completed. Those who have learned music may be able to connect it. Once you learn, maybe a mistake, for example, the lyrics, what you got from an old record, you were following that, you have by hearted the lyrics. When you perform, somebody else told that, no, I think in the second stanza, the lyric is wrong. Now we know that how much we struggle to correct it. Once you learnt it, it's not so easy to unlearn and relearn. But now we give emphasis for learning, unlearning, and relearning, especially at least for the faculty members. I have observed that faculty members are telling, this is how I have learned. This is how my teacher taught me. And if you are there as a medium just to transact what your teachers have taught, I think there is no meaning. I think as a faculty member, what are all the things I missed from my teacher while learning so many things. I feel that my students should not miss that. When we were learning, when we were as the students, we were not able to understand what exactly we were missing. But when we were into the industry, when we are into the field of teaching, now we realize that there were lots of gaps, or there were lots of ambiguity the teacher was going through or made in me. Now, are we repeating the same? No. So therefore, dear friends, maybe the formative assessment, it's easy to do, but only thing we need to design that. While designing, one of the challenges is how do we design our specific outcomes? We'll come to that later. And assessment of learning is simple. Any Dick and Carry can do it. What is that? At the end of the learning, you ask how much you have learned. That's what we do at the end of the semester, or even at the end of each unit. We provide certain questions and they answer it. Now, what is the advantage of the first one? Even soon after the assessment of learning, what exactly we do? Are we doing something? After evaluating the paper, after evaluating the experiment or the demonstrations, what they have done, what exactly we do? We do provide the feedback. What kind of feedback we are providing? Most of the time, the feedbacks would be a conclusionary type or a judgmental type. In the assessment of learning, that is what Robert Stake was talking about these two. Robert Stake told that when a cook tastes the food while preparing, that is assessment for learning. And if a guest tastes the food, the guest is able to assess the cook as well as even the restaurant. So the assessment of learning is also important as far as an institution is concerned. Whereas, as far as the learners are concerned, assessment for learning is the best, because the learners are able to get the corrections then and there. How do we give the feedback? In the assessment of learning, we know as a sum total, you give that these are the mistakes you have done, don't repeat. Then the student may ask, oh, you are going to give the same kind of assessment again. This is what we do. We repeat the same kind of assessment throughout. Now we agree that we need to have varieties of assessment tasks, varieties of assessment activities, because we talk about the comprehensiveness, we talk about the multidisciplinarity. So how do we give the feedback when you do the assessment? We give the feedback maybe as a statement. There ends excellent, good, or need improvement. The dear friends, maybe let me point here. When you are giving the feedback, please look for 4 components. First one, start with a positive stroke. Don't say that it's okay. There is a problem with it's okay. What is the problem? It's almost neutral. I used to ask when somebody asks, when somebody tells me that that is okay. The next question would be, who is okay? Are you okay? Or do you mean to say that I am okay? Whenever I take up any activities, maybe any learning activities, I do expect at least some good words, good presentation. Fine, I'm happy. But don't stop there as a faculty member who is concerned with the improvement of the learner. The next is very important. Give a diagnostic statement. What is that? I have done a presentation, and my mentor or my faculty member has gone through the presentation. At the end of the presentation, he told that your presentation is good. Now, this is also a problem. When you stop with a single statement, almost all the time the students are feeling the success. And at times they will not be able to cope up with the failures. We have enough and enough cases, especially in IITs, the stress and the maybe the anxiety what the students are experiencing. Till that time, they were following a kind of maybe the assessment where every time they were getting excellent, good. But when it went to IITs, we know the maybe the culture of IITs, there will be a kind of comprehensive assessment happening where some of the dimensions our students are not able to cope up, and even there are cases of suicides. So your first statement, let it be a positive stroke. Don't make the student to amaze with that. Get the second statement, a diagnostic statement, say that your vocabulary seems to be improved. Can we stop there? It's not finding fault, as most of the students maybe feel that always this teacher, this faculty always find faults with whatever I do. If you find it as a scope for improvement, then the third component, give a remediation, suggest a remediation. Even most of us do these three. Don't stop there. Now my teacher is giving different suggestions, and I'm so happy that tomorrow he or she will not ask. I have seen these kind of suggestions every time, but there ends the story. But some faculty members, they do the follow-up. They do the follow-up. That makes the student that yes, this faculty member is very sincere in my improvement. So assessment for learning gives you a lot of scope for feedback then and there, and make the corrections, so that if you are involving in the process, we all know that the product would be almost expected. There will be maybe less corrections or errors in the product if they are able to follow the process. So equipping the learner with the learning process is the key in assessment for learning, whereas assessment of learning, you focus on how much they have learned. And even assessment for learning gives a key to the faculty. I am just giving a task, the students are involved in the task and they are performing. While performing, I just see that how exactly they are progressing. That gives me an idea that whether I need to improve the kind of tasks which I am providing, whether my teaching is appropriate. Then it talks about the other two, assessment as learning as well as assessment in learning. Assessment itself as learning. We may provide the student an opportunity for self-assessment. Maybe a project he has undertaken, and the first point we may suggest that you yourself assess it. Now most of the time the students may not be very clear what should I assess, because this is what I have done. But maybe informing properly what exactly the task was, what exactly the expectation, or what exactly the outcome that I have designed for this particular assessment task, they will be able to. And assessment in learning, we do go for common mistake analysis. Whatever assessment task we provide, we may take maybe 5 minutes at the end of the task. We may ask the students, can you reflect on? Can you reflect on what did you learn from that? What is your takeaway? And what kind of mistakes you feel that you have taken? Or maybe specific to the science. we ask them to find out the error analysis. Either common mistake analysis or the error analysis. For what purpose? They learn from that. So keeping this for modern assessment paradigm, outcome-based education, we know which is not new. It was almost started in America, and even William G. Spady have written a beautiful book. Even you can read that, the outcome-based education challenges and answers. He was explaining what exactly an outcome-based system, how exactly we conceived it as. Outcome-based system is focusing on developing a clear set of outcomes around which all of the system's components can be focused. It is very comprehensive or eclectic. We need to consider all the components of the system. Here, the system is education or engineering education. Are we giving due weightage? That is where maybe the accreditation agency or UGC or AICTE comes with. The framework says that we need to focus on the graduate attributes. We need to focus on the qualification descriptors. We need to focus on the program learning outcome. And we need to focus on the course learning outcome or the specific learning outcomes. Or maybe based on the NBA document, I can say the program outcomes, the POs, and specific program outcomes or program specific outcomes, PSOs. Having said that, even AICTE or UGC or the accrediting agency tells you that on the whole, we need to focus on the triangle of success. What is that? The knowledge, attitude, and skills. Now it asks you a question that, are we really prepared to check whether the knowledge, attitude, or the skill is getting enhanced among our students? Am I giving enough opportunity for the learner to provide the attitudes, to improve their skills? And obviously, our focus is more on the knowledge. So the KAS triangle would be always guiding you in designing your learning outcomes as well as the assessment. Because the learning outcome, design of learning outcome and design of assessment go hands in hand. We need to map the learning outcome as well as the assessment. So the key area here is how best we can design our learning outcomes. Once you are very clear about the learning outcome, it is done. Why? Because I have a clarity in what do I expect. What do I expect at the end of the learning process? What do I expect the learner acquire through the kind of learning experiences I provide? Learning experiences can vary from maybe a simple lecture to maybe a self-taken projects. So friends, we need to focus. When you design your program outcomes, we give emphasis for KAS. They need to have a deliberate attempt. However best you have the program outcomes suggested by maybe the governing bodies, ultimately you are the stakeholder who are making sure they are getting implemented and attained properly. Now, what are the program outcomes maybe suggested at the graduate level of engineering? First one, it talks about the engineering knowledge. What is that? The engineering knowledge talks about apply the knowledge of mathematics, science, engineering fundamentals, and an engineering specialization to the solution of complex engineering problems. And I know and I hope almost all of us are focusing on this at the first hand. We do emphasis on the engineering knowledge, but maybe a concern some of you may raise that students are coming to that level maybe without appropriate fundamentals. We do struggle a lot to make sure that they have enough prerequisites, they have achieved the prerequisites. They may be lacking in mathematics or they may be lacking in science. But we maybe out of the 8 semesters or whatever we follow, we give emphasis for the engineering knowledge. Now the question is, are we really able to achieve this outcome? What are all the problems we have? We will put that together and see later. The second program outcome suggests that problem analysis, analyzing the problem, identify, formulate, review, and analyze complex engineering problems. Some of you maybe started laughing or smiling at your end. How far we are able to develop it, the kind of problem solving. Now, what are the problems the students have to analyze? That is another question. Sometimes the students feel that these are all not the problems. My faculty suggests that you do it. But we know that a problem analysis do need accountability, involvement, participation, and even the ownership. Are the students able to develop an ownership? We are struggling a lot. Even maybe convincing the learners itself is a challenge before us. Why do I do it? Why should I do it? Maybe for problem analysis, we can say that how best we can create the need. How can we sensitize our learners so that once they become sensitized, they will be able to come up with the problems. Very rarely we see that. There are students coming up with maybe the startup. We do have maybe incubation center, startup center, innovation center. But how far we are able to achieve that is a question. Let us agree that almost all students are able to, but they are not getting aptly trained. Do we give the flexibility or the freedom for the learners to raise questions? What kind of questions if we are agreeing? What kind of debate or discussion or negotiation and argumentation we provide in our classroom? Maybe some students may bring in a wild idea. Wild in the sense, wild for us maybe. Even I feel that one of the IIT professor was sharing, we are getting enough students in IITs, but we feel that they are all acting as machines. You give an input, they will provide you the output. Nothing more than that. It is an input-output system. Now, can we build a processor in between, in the learner, who is having maybe the intelligence, maybe the logic, the rational thinking, who can sense the problem, who can sense the input and read the input, apply their own logic and come up with the solution? Even most of the time, students are not good analyzers. You might have experienced. When you ask them, you analyze. What kind of analysis do they do? Even at faculty level, what kind of analysis we do? Our analysis is being influenced a lot by our assumptions. This is what I do. Very rarely, maybe the computer science faculties may be using maybe an algorithmic problem analysis or a flow chart based, or maybe the kind of decision making process. So some of the experts suggest that rather you disseminate information or knowledge in the classroom, if you can conceive it as problem-based education can be one that can be used. The third program outcome, it is the design or development of solution. It directly connects with the problem analysis. That tells you, as a faculty member, I need to give enough opportunity for the learner to come up with the design or development of the solution. Unless and until the students are able to analyze the task that you have given, most of the time they conceive it as a holistic. Now, let me ask a simple question. What is 5 plus 5? Can anyone answer? Those who are able to unmute. What is 5 plus 5?
10.
Thank you. What is 5 pen plus 5 pen?
10 pen.
10 pen. What is 5 pen plus 5 pencil? Now it takes little more time. Five pen plus 5 pencils. Most of you say that I cannot add it. Or the answer would be 5 pens plus 5 pencils. Am I correct? Can I have any response?
Yes, sir.
5 pens plus 5 pencils would be the answer. Now I would like to say, maybe a student would be coming to you saying that 10 writing
Your answer is
instruments.
correct.
10 writing instruments. Now even at our level, now we feel that how can we add 5 pens and 5 pencils? They are not common. Because our mathematization concept is that you need to have same base. Now a student may be able to convert the pens and pencils into a common base writing instrument, and he would be coming to give the answer 5 pens plus 5 pencils are 10 writing instruments. We'll say that no, that is not in our textbook, in our syllabus. Similar way, if somebody asks what is 7 plus 7, we'll give the answer 14, no doubt. Now the faculty member asks what is 7 plus 8? 15. How did you get it? Can you explain the logic that you were following? Means when the problem analysis, when the problem solution, design and development of solution, there are lots of varieties, corollaries, what we say, or the alternatives possible. So are we ready for that? Are we providing or are we designing our program outcomes keeping the design and development of solutions? When you design your instruction, there is something called instructional design. I don't know how best you prepare it. You may prepare a course handout where you will spell out the specific program outcomes based on the general program outcomes. What are we discussing now? So the design and development is a game. The question is, If the students are coming with their own ideas, sir, our syllabus, our marking scheme is not allowing. There is the problem. The students may be able to come up with varieties of maybe interpretations or analysis or verifications. Do we have a system that allows it? Even our system now, what are we saying? We need to have a term and examination, that to be online. Maybe 3-hour examination is compulsory. We are trying to customize the existing curriculum or the syllabus fit into the technology media. We are not looking into the scope or the capacity of the media, rather we are compelled. We are compelled to fit into. Now at least maybe even at, I know that even at the technical university, they started thinking that yes, there is a scope of going online. When you try to go online, then our curriculum needs to be realigned. The fourth one is conduct investigation of complex problems. You can see all these are interconnected. They cannot be separated because engineering knowledge involves all these. Analyzing the problem. But how best we present a problem? Most of the time we assign the problem. Then I may call it as an assignment only. Whatever you call it as. Even at the maybe the research level, the guide assigns the topic or the title. The scholar struggled a lot within that, and at the end there will be an output. How much ownership the scholar has got? Why? Because I don't feel it as my problem. If my guide or my mentor, my faculty is able to sensitize this is your problem, then the ownership would be developed among the students. Once the student owns it, they'll be struggling a lot to come up with the solution. They will be able to design it. We need not provide. We may provide a framework because you are the person who are designing the program, the specific program outcomes. Now in the conduct of investigation, even the accreditation documents suggest you that they need to go through the research based. What does the industry suggest? What is the standard that people are looking for? When you take up the input from the industry, from the market, then we know that yes, there are n number of complex problems. Maybe in our curriculum, all the problems may be very simple, or we might have followed simple to complex. By that time, the students will say that the time is up, or the faculty will say that the time is up, we need to prepare for the examination. So therefore, you just complete it. Because we are following simple to complex, we have a time constraint. Now, how many of our students are able to think about the different constraints? Because while investigating, while conducting the complex problem analysis, they do need to think of, maybe at some institutes, they do prepare the students to go for a SWOT analysis. The strength, weakness, opportunities and challenges. Or sometimes you may depend on maybe De Bono's 6 thinking hats. Because when you analyze a problem and coming to a solution, it's a kind of decision making. So most of the time, our decision making is being influenced with our emotions, with our apprehensions. But can we provide a scope where they do approach the problem in varieties of dimensions? Not only with the emotion, not only with the specific industry, not only with the specific market standards. The next set of program outcome is an individual and teamwork. is most of the time we give individual and teamwork. But how best we assess it? Do we assess the group as a whole? When you provide a group work, do you assess group as a whole? If you are assessing group as a whole, then there is a mistake. Why? Even when we are assigning a group task, a group work, our assessment would be individualistic. How best the individual is collaborating, sharing the ideas, taking the leadership. Then it talks about the communication. There lies the most of the problem. Are we taking any specific program outcomes related to communication? How best a student is able to express. Students would be excellent in performing. But after the performance, maybe if you take up any project, maybe an internship, they have done successfully, they have completed the internship successfully, then you make them to prepare for maybe I'll come to that. Do you think that the UGC failed in their assessment? I'll come to that. But my point of view here is yes. Again, I'll tell you, there are lots of discussion and maybe the arguments and debates going on about the outcome-based education. Even most of the countries have discarded that. Even Singapore is not following that. America is not following that. Long back they have told that this is not working well, but especially now we give more emphasis for the outcomes. And maybe this Paddy, William G. Paddy was asking a question: who decides these outcomes? That is the question. As engineering faculty members, you might have raised a question: who has decided this? I think maybe there should be a scope for contextualizing, localizing. Unfortunately, throughout the country, we may have to focus on a specific set of program outcomes, which we are struggling. There are systemic issues, there are policy-based issues. I'm not going to that. Maybe at the end, when we have a discussion time, we will discuss that. But as an individual faculty, how best I can take these inputs and improve my teaching, learning and assessment. So give emphasis for communication, whether the students are able to express whatever they have performed, whatever they have achieved. Then is the project management and finance is another program outcome. Because we know that we are preparing as a student, an engineering graduate, when comes out, the graduate may have to take up projects which is influenced even by the finance. Not only finance, even the resource management, the time management. There are different areas of management. So are we equipping our learners? Do we have enough scope in our curriculum? That is what we need to do. When you take up the general program outcomes, we need to thoroughly analyze our curriculum and find out where and all the scope of these outcomes. Unless and until we do that, I think we will not be able to be successful in attaining the program outcomes. Another is lifelong learning. How many of our students are really motivated to take up further learning? Now, even we have a problem that most of the students are highly attracted towards NEET, If I am not getting into NEET, then I will move to the engineering. Very handful students are really interested in maybe in engineering. Maybe I can say 60% would be by chance they come to the engineering. Therefore, their intention would be completing the program. But even there are students, though they become by chance through the influence of the maybe the institutional environment or the faculty or the curriculum, they will be developing a real passion. That is also possible. So how far we can maybe designing our specific program outcomes that motivates the learner. That is another area. And another set of outcomes, what says the modern tool usage. It's a really very interesting. How many of our students have the opportunity to use the modern tools? I'm not commenting on the status of the engineering colleges. We know that there are different category of engineering colleges where they have enough scope for utilizing the modern tools. Even there are AI-based labs. Whereas we have the other system where even they don't have a proper infrastructure. But our intention is, as far as possible, can we provide the modern tool usage, creating, selecting, and applying appropriate techniques, the modern engineering tools. Then that will direct towards the faculty how many of us are really equipped with that. Even if I have a modern tool in my institution, am I able to use it? So that gives us an idea that we need to update ourselves, we need to upskill ourselves, we need to invest more on updating and upgrading. And the other three, if you look at, they are more social related. The engineer and the society, what kind of ethics, what kind of commitment, how best the graduate is able to sensitize the problems of the society, the health, safety, legal and cultural issues. Even the next one is also connected to that, the environment and sustainability. Sustainable technologies, sustainable engineering, where we have an environmental concern. Though we say that maybe what you call bio or eco-friendly, but how far we are able to connect it? This program outcome would be very generic. Wherever possible, we can highlight it and try to achieve. Maybe at least I would say when you have an internship or if you have a project that is there, we can give more emphasis on this. But the problem is, maybe some of you say that they are not aware of, they don't have a positive attitude. I feel that our students have an attitude towards the environment and sustainability. They are aware of it. I am concerned with the other two. The knowledge about the action skills and the action competence. How far they are able to act. I am aware of the environmental problems, issues, but how far I am able to do it. So that is where maybe in our institutions we follow maybe the green protocol, giving emphasis for them to act or practice. And then comes the ethics, the ethical principles. We know our life is becoming unethical. However best you try to maybe be strong in our ethics, I think maybe the situations or the other forces like market force, the economy force, maybe the political force, these forces are maybe compelling us. Even the students feel that the OB is more of paperwork oriented rather than practical oriented. Most are manipulating the mapping and getting some numbers to. True. See, that is where I am telling. When if you feel that we are all doing the paperwork or we are all doing maybe attaining or achieving the score, then there is no meaning. Though the outcome suggests about the product, let us be involved in the process, the real conceptualizations. Even the ethical issues, we cannot teach the students the ethics. That ethics need to be imbibed. It needs to be evolved. Maybe a kind of social commitment, a commitment towards the environment. These things need to be evolved during the program of study. That means the institutions and the faculty members need to provide enough opportunities to experience. So, having said these as the major program outcomes, what logic we can follow? I hope all of us are aware of these program outcomes suggested by AICTE or UGC or accreditation agencies. How far we are able to do it? What is the logic we follow to include these kind of program outcomes or these kind of attainment of program outcome? What logic do we follow? That is a big question. The first one, are we really internalized these program outcomes? As I told, that is a necessity. If you are more concerned about attainment of the program outcomes, the first necessity is that internalize it. What exactly they are then. Go to the syllabus or the curriculum. Do a thorough analysis. Maybe I have seen certain institutions, they do a workshop in the beginning of the year. Take up the curriculum because every year there may be a shuffling of the faculty members. This year I may be using doing maybe one particular option, and next year I may be moving to another option or another special areas. So sitting together, the faculty members do brainstorm and find out maybe the plug points in the curriculum where exactly these kind of program outcomes can be thought of achieving. I don't know how many of us have that kind of exercise. Analyzing the curriculum or the syllabus and preparing or I can say that outcome profiling. Develop an outcome profile for the entire syllabus of that particular semester. So what is the advantage? Once you develop that profile, it's very clear that where exactly we need to emphasize. Even the institutions can take a call where exactly I need to give the weightage and what weightage it need to be depending upon that particular course. The program outcome is for the entire program. If it is BE, BTech, that is for the entire program. Now in the program we have courses, the different papers. Now some of these outcomes would be achieved very extensively in a specific course. The next set would be really reflecting in the next course. So putting together maybe 8 courses or 16 courses, you'll be able to achieve the entire outcomes. So we need to come to the next level of specifying. Once you have identified the the different program outcomes that can be achieved through that particular course syllabus, then you will take up the next. The logic would be this: the revised taxonomy. We need to articulate thoroughly, specifically, taking maybe each unit. We need to frame our outcomes. Maybe I can give an example. One of the faculty told, my outcome is students will be able to gain insight into the modern engineering concepts. Students would be able to gain insight into the modern engineering concepts. Is there any problem with this outcome? Or what is the problem with this outcome statement? The problem I feel, the point of assessment here is gain insight. How will I assess whether that graduate gained insight? Most of the time the students say that I know it, but I'm not able to express it. It's there in my tongue, tip of my tongue, but I'm not able to. It is there in my, maybe the programming, but I'm not able to. So here the problem is, if the faculty is formulating a specific program outcome or a specific course outcome as gaining insight, the problem here is that is not specific, that is more generic. Maybe for an entire course, for an entire paper, I can frame one as gain insight, because gaining insight, as study says that what are all outcomes? The outcomes are clear learning results that we want our students to demonstrate at the end of a significant learning experience. So if you consider outcome as something that the students are demonstrating, we depend upon the demonstrable behavior or the demonstrable cognitive process. Now, gain insight, how one would be demonstrating. Is it the attitude? Is it the skill? Is it the knowledge? Because once I gain insight, obviously that may be influencing my attitude. Are we really assessing the attitudinal change? Is it there in our assessment framework? So gain insight would be a very broader one, and gain insight would be demonstrated through specific responses or reactions. For that, we can depend on maybe the Bloom's taxonomy having 6 levels: remembering, understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. Students will be able to recall the facts. That would be a base level. Students will be able to apply a particular theory. If the student is able to apply a theory, the student should have understood that thoroughly. Unless and until a clarity in understanding of the theory, I will not be able to apply in a new situation. That is what our students are suffering. Their conceptual understanding is not clear. Hence, they are perplexed in application. Once they are able to apply in new situations, they will come up with lots of challenges, so that they will be able to analyze what is the problem here, what exactly the advantage here. Then they will be able to evaluate. Without analysis, the students will not be able to evaluate the theory or the method that you have suggested or the procedure that you are explaining. If they are able to evaluate, they'll be able to create something new. Judging, evaluating the existing, then they'll be able to create something new. Are we taking our students, are we giving opportunities for our students to demonstrate from the lower level to the higher level? There is a continuum. So dear friends, our instructions need to be very specific. What exactly the particular student is going to achieve at the end of my session. Make it very clear so that through my 40 sessions, they will be able to achieve maybe at least 40 specific outcomes they'll be able to demonstrate. Putting together these 40 demonstrations, these 40 outcomes will be enhancing the learner as a whole, equipping the learner to face the challenges, solve the situations or solve the conflicts or suggest new models. So friends, our program attainment need to be based on, there should be some framework, and one of the best framework that we can use is maybe the revised taxonomy, though it talks about the objectives which is being planned in the beginning. Now even in the outcome framework also we are planning the outcome in the beginning. We state as the expected. This is what I expect in my particular session. So the art of designing the outcome decides upon the effectiveness of attaining the outcome. How best you can design your outcome, that is you can attain that outcome. There is no other rocket science. We need to have the clarity. We need to have the clarity of the tasks that the students are taking. The task means any kind of learning experiences, whether it is a demonstration, whether it is a experimentation, whatever it may be. It's only depend upon our analysis skill. It's not there. How do we select a concept? How best we analyze? That is why the variation between the teachers. Every teachers are unique. If there is a common topic, if 5 teachers are handling, we can see the variation. Why? It depends on how best they perceive it, how best they conceive it, and how best they design it. So at the institutional level, maybe the institutions can think of having kind of workshops in developing the specific learning outcomes based on the general program outcomes. Keep the faculty members into the task analysis. How many of us suggest our students the details of the task? How best we do analyze the task? Shall I give a task? I have a task. Some of you feel that we would like to have a cup of tea. I am giving a task. Even I too would like to have a cup of tea. So I am giving you a task. I don't know how to prepare tea. Give me a procedure to prepare 1 cup of tea. I repeat, give me a procedure to prepare 1 cup of tea. Can anyone give me a procedure? can unmute and talk. Hope my task statement is very clear. Give me a procedure to prepare 1 cup of tea. Nobody is ready?
Okay, sir. Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah. So first we'll be asking before giving the procedure. Do you know how to make
Sir,
tea? Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir,
Yeah.
let me make it very clear. Give me a procedure. I am not asking you what procedure you follow.
Okay.
Give me a procedure to prepare a cup of tea.
Okay. Take a utensil which can pour 1 cup of water. Take a measuring cup with 1 cup of 50% water, 50% milk. Take little sugar. Take little tea leaves. Have something to burn, maybe a gas stove or a heater. Put it over that.
Okay.
Wait till it boil.
Hmm.
Boiled one, you put the sugar and tea.
Hmm.
After boiling, filter it.
Hmm.
Serve it in the cup.
Okay. Thank you, sir. But with 1 cup, I think I am not refreshed. Can I have 1 more cup? Anybody else?
Hello, sir. Hello. Can
Yes,
you hear
sir.
me?
Yes, please.
Okay. So better way, if you want to have a cup of tea, you take 1 cup of boiled water. Then pour some water and if you want to have sugar, you can have it and you can enjoy your tea, your cup of tea.
Okay. Fine. Thank you. So we have seen how best the 2 people have taken up the task. Is there any problem in the way they have approached the task? The problem most of the time, though they started asking me, first I will like to know what kind of tea you are needed. So basically that is needed, right? Rather saying that this is what the way I prepare the tea, therefore I give the suggestion like this or I give the procedure like this. Rather we will say, yes, I would like to know whether you need a tea with milk, without milk, do you need sugar, or do you need there can be n number of questions. Then only I think we will be able to provide the detailed procedure even for preparing tea. So the same thing is applicable whenever we design an assessment task, whenever we design a project. But most of the time we assume that, sir, you also know how to prepare tea. This is what I prepare. So I expect that you also prepare like this. Means most of the faculty say that, sir, they know project, they know assignment, they are supposed to do it and they do it. Why should I intervene? Why should we intervene? Because you are the person who has decided the program, the learning outcome. Therefore, you don't want the students to maybe waste their time in doing whatever they need. I need the task to be completed based on the outcomes I have decided. So we need to have a thorough task analysis and we can see where exactly I as a faculty need to intervene so that they will they will follow, and I will be able to achieve my decided outcomes. So, for example, there are in a particular project there is something called material collection, and after that they need to assemble those materials, and maybe they have to demonstrate and present. If the material collection is not appropriate, if they miss some of the important materials, they'll not be able to demonstrate it properly. So I feel, yes, as a faculty, I need to intervene in a phase where they collected the material. I make sure that they have collected the relevant, adequate, appropriate materials, and maybe having a small discussion how exactly you are going to make use of them. So I make sure that yes, they are equipped. So can we think of that way? Like, what do we do when we prepare a new dish? I have got the recipe. If I get the recipe, I'm happy. Why? Even I can try it. So are we providing a recipe? We'll come back there. Now, even however best you are competent enough, confident enough in your cooking skill, if it is a new dish, we know that whenever we add some of the ingredients, we do taste it. Why are we doing that? We do taste it because we are concerned with the quality of the product. So the analysis of the task, whatever it may be, whether it is a learning task or an assessment task, how best we can analyze and how best we can maybe explore the different ways in which that particular task can be completed, have a clarity with that, so that we can have more specific outcomes. Our assessment, the USP is that our assessment should be outcome based. Our assessment should be mapped with the outcome that we are designing, and it should be objective. Is it becoming objective? We have certain challenges in making it more objective. So how will we make it more objective? We will come back to that. And the third point is, it makes it very unique. If possible, make it collaborative. Collaborative in the sense, let the student work together. Let the student go for a peer evaluation. Let the student do a self-evaluation. And even the assessment or the evaluation criteria could be discussed and come to a consensus. Yes, this is the task we are going to do, and what are all the criteria with which this particular task would be assessed. And even the outcome-based education suggests you that the outcomes that you are designing for a particular course or for a particular unit, that can be shared with the students. How far we are doing is another question. And what are the problems we have? We have the problems of background knowledge. When you design your assessment for the sake of attaining the outcome, check how much I know about this particular outcome. What is that outcome all about? Let me tell you an outcome. I am deciding a personal outcome. I would like to become Shah Rukh Khan. What is your reflection on that outcome? I would like to become Shah Rukh Khan. Nobody is responding. You will say that, sir, are you mad? Why? You cannot become Shah Rukh Khan. It is not achievable. It is not realistic. It is not measurable because I don't know how will I measure whether you have become Shah Rukh Khan or not. It's not specific. And I don't know how much time you will take. Means I'm talking about SMART. Specific, measurable, realistic, achievable, time-bounded, outcomes need to be framed. I would say, in order to become Shah Rukh Khan, I would like to reduce 2 kilograms of my body weight within 2 weeks. Then it becomes very specific, even you can measure. I can measure that. I can go to a weighing machine. I can measure after 2 weeks. So can we frame our outcomes like that as a faculty member? By the end of the session, what exactly I am going to achieve? So the background knowledge of the learner, because if you want to decide upon specific learning outcomes that can be achieved, we need to know how best the students are able to perform. What is their minimum level of performance? What kind of access they have, whether they have enough access to the resources, technology. I am deciding that students will be able to maybe program in Java, for example. But I feel most of my students, they don't have a personal laptop. And even in my institute, there is no computer lab. I can be so ambitious, but this may not be working properly. Recently, I could realize when I have given a task that the students need to prepare a Word document or a word processor document and upload in the course, which I am using through Moodle. Now later on, students told, sir, we don't have the laptop, we are depending on the mobile, where in mobile I am not able to maybe develop a write-up. So even I need to be aware of that. We cannot be so ambitious, we cannot be so directed towards the general program outcome and decide. We need to have the background knowledge, whether the content has got the scope. Go for a critical analysis, which is possible by the learner, by themselves, which is possible by the faculty member, and which is possible maybe only by an industry people. There we decide, okay, now for this particular maybe the concepts of the area, I will have an industry partnership. I would like to call for an expert. This will happen only when you develop the critical analysis, thorough analysis of the curriculum. Even in outcome-based education, that is a concern. Who decides the outcome and who gives the input? I don't know how many of us have that habit. Once the semester is over, giving the feedback on the course back to maybe the department or back to the concerned departments. Do we write back? I have taken this particular course. These are all the pros and cons of this particular course. How many of our faculties are doing? Then once you do a critical analysis, then we can think about the design and development either of the tool or the learning experiences that you provide to the students so that they feel comfortable, they feel motivated to take up those experiences. And also, while designing and developing, please see to the point that you are able to customize it. Customize maybe locally. I may have a beautiful textbook on maybe the mechanical engineering, which is been written by a US or a UK author. UK author has given his explanation based on that particular scenario. Now, when I take that entire concept or textbook here, when the students are going through that, they may feel that most of these are not applicable here. So faculty need to take those concepts and customize it, localize it. That is where we have maybe the IIT consortium where we have a VLab, virtual lab. Even if at your level, that if it is not readily available, explore for the availability, and when you look for the availability, the context may be different. So as a faculty need to customize it. Then comes the scheduling. How best you will be able to schedule it. What is that scheduling? Scheduling the entire learning experiences, prioritizing the kind of experiences, keeping in mind the heterogeneity of the classroom. Do I be able to prioritize which one should go first, so that the following up activity, the continuing activity would be taken up by the student themselves. So these are some of the problems we have which we need to address if we are focusing on attaining the program outcomes. And for that, when you talk about the assessment, for that, I think one of the best tools that we can depend upon is the assessment rubrics. What is a rubric? Even in the accreditation agency talks about, they also follow a rubric. Even I think that is getting shared with the institutions. So are we in a position to develop a rubric? Let us see what is a rubric. A rubric, assessment rubric, is a matrix consisting of criteria, expected performance levels, and descriptors of that expected performance level. There are three components. One is the criteria of assessment. With what criteria I am going to assess, whatever it may be. What are the expected levels? And then Subbareddy sir, basically the structure of a rubric would be same. Maybe we can have a common structure, but the components, the elements in the rubric would be varying from subject to subject. The variation from college to college may not be that much appreciated because you are following the program outcomes. So you may develop program outcome or the program specific outcome based rubrics. I do agree when move from one subject to another subject, there will be variation. But since we are all following the outcome based framework, I think even there can be some uniformity, not all, everything unique, but there can be uniformity. But the structure is almost same, where assessment rubric will contain criteria. Assessment criteria need to be the part of rubric. Then comes the expected levels. For example, I'm taking the presentation, for example. Presentation as a criteria. Now, what are the expected level? I say that excellent presentation is one level, that is the highest level. Need improvement is the lowest level. Now you know your students better. So once you know your students better, you can see what is the variation that you can expect. Is it only 2 level? In any classroom, we can have a normal probability curve. NPC is possible in a classroom. If it is not, then that classroom would be a very specific classroom, maybe having an ability grouping. So since our classroom is a mixed group, you can always normalize it based on different parameters. So once you normalize, we can see that we cannot have only 2 extremes, even there can be a middle part. So either 3 levels, 5 levels, depending upon the criteria that we are using. See, for example, for presentation, there can be different levels. There can be maybe what you say that mastery, and maybe a novice. In between, there can be different levels. So the teacher can decide upon the level that you are expecting for a particular criteria. And the third component is each level need to be described. We will see the steps that we can follow in developing the rubric. The steps that you can follow in developing the rubric, it starts from identifying the learning outcome and the knowledge domain to be assessed. If you as a faculty develops the rubric, you should have the clarity on the learning outcomes and the domain. Which domain you are focusing? Is it at the skill domain or affective domain, or is at the cognitive domain? So identify the learning outcome and the knowledge domain, because we know the learning outcome would be so specific. Once it is so specific, you will be able to exactly assess. Then once you identify the learning outcome, we need to think about the assessment task. Depending upon the learning outcome that you have decided, we need to design the assessment task. The task would be a group discussion, a task would be a demonstration, a task would be an experimentation. Once you identify the task, do the task analysis. When you analyze the task, you will come to know what are all the performances involved. What kind of performances are involved from the students. So you can pick up the criteria, performance criteria, and you will decide which one will have a weightage. For example, if you are giving an assessment, written assessment. In the written assessment, we know collection of the material, compiling the material, presenting the material, all would be important. And also some will feel that browsing, internet browsing also involved, but would you like to give a more weightage for the internet browsing? We won't give, because every student may not have enough opportunity to browse the internet. Even they can depend upon the textbooks. So we decide the weightage for each performance criteria. Then you decide on the levels. Once you decide a performance, you can decide what would be the variation that we can expect. Then you write the descriptor for that level. For example, when I say content as a criteria in a written assessment, I may say that collected contents from authentic resources, processed with originality, interpreted in own way. All these put together, I'll say that you will be awarded excellent in the content, or maximum grade, or maximum score. Then to the lower level, you will have collected assets from the resources and pasted or represented. That will be a lowest level. So what exactly the performance we are expecting, that we have to write. Then don't think that, okay, now next moment I'll implement it. What we'll do, you can discuss with your colleagues. Maybe a kind of validation, you can do it. You can just share it with your colleagues and ask their suggestions. Then some of them, maybe an experienced faculty member would be suggesting that I think this cannot be done, or why can't you try this way? And also maybe you can discuss with the students, because they are the beneficiaries. Then let the students start the assessment task, having a copy of the rubric, because that itself acts as a motivator for the learner, because you have clearly told them that these are all the criteria with which I am going to assess this particular task. So everybody will be trying their level best according to the rubric. So use the rubric and then you can go for a review. Even I know some of the institutes during the initial workshop itself, they develop even the assessment rubrics. I'm not telling you that for every assessment you need rubric. Sorry, for every task. Whichever task you are designating as used for assessment, use the rubric. Maybe to begin with, in the coming semester, at least one rubric you use. And if you find that is very useful, go ahead with that. So once you do the assessments, give the feedback and do the necessary follow-up. Because we are not very sure that this particular assessment has given you or has helped you to attain your program outcome. So we need to do the feedback, provide the feedback, review it, and also follow it up. In follow-up, maybe you will take up the points. So with that, I will end the presentation. I think we have 14 minutes for the discussions. So I'll stop sharing the presentation.
Dear participants, if you wish to ask any more questions, you can ask it right now. You can use the raise hand option or you can post it in the chat box.
So one of the point was raised is few of deemed to be universities and self-financing autonomous institutions are not doing good. Without respecting the students' performance, giving pass marks and boosting their results, do you think that UGC failed in the assessment? I would say yes, because we are living in a democratic country and democracy itself has got its own challenges. So maybe I'm not in a better position to comment on it. Yes, that is the reality. There are lots of factors influencing in the quality. Another, the OBE is more paperwork oriented rather than practical oriented. Most are manipulating the mapping and getting some numbers to the present in front of the committee. Are we really concentrating on teaching in conceptual mode or manipulating according to the guideline? Sir, I think that would be a self-assessment that each one of us can do. Though each one of us are becoming a change carrier, change agent, how far maybe the institutions are allowing is a question. But I think those institutions who are really concerned with the quality, they will be taking care of and giving enough academic freedom, academic flexibilities, even in maybe reorganizing the curriculum, syllabus, and kind of experiences. And same Subbareddy sir asked that is there any standard format for rubric? Standard structure can be there or standard components like criteria, performance level, as well as the performance descriptors. And maybe you can, if you are really interested to develop rubric online, you have a website called forallrubrics.com. I'm just putting that in the chat box. Forallrubrics.com allows you to develop your rubrics with the structure. Even Ruby Star, there are lots of, but for all rubrics, even you can use it as a classroom kind of thing like Google Classroom. You can enroll the students there and they can access through the rubric and all.
Dear participants, if you have any more questions, you can use the time. You can post it in the chat box or you can unmute and ask the sir. I hope that is the end of question answer session. Okay, we'll move to the end of the session. Okay, thank you, sir. I would like to take this opportunity to thank our resource person, Dr. Biju, for this valuable session, this wonderful session. This was indeed a great thought-provoking session. We came across the importance of continuous assessment. We came across how the objectives can be achieved, okay, the different aspects in which the outcomes can be achieved. Okay, this was indeed a great session. So thank you, sir, for spending with us your valuable time and sharing this valuable information with us. Dear participants, I would like to remind you that the attendance and feedback session is posted in the chat box. You can fill out this right now. Okay, this will be open for 1 hour. Once again, thank you, sir. Thank you for this
Thank you.
wonderful session.
Thank you all the participants and the coordinators and the institute management. Thanks a lot. I hope I have done a justice with the topic and I have shared, and please do read some of the literature related to that and equip yourself and do the best. Thank you.
Thank you all.